What is up, everybody? This is Mark Blanton with David DeBonis, and this is the Reclamation Health Podcast, where we provide you with the framework and real-life examples on reclaiming your health. So today, we're going to be touching on the physical pillar of health, something we talked about in last week's episode. Just to give you guys some framework, the pillars we talked about were mental, emotional, spiritual, financial, and social. This is what we broke out into the framework of what health is. David broke it down into, it was what?
Mental, physical, spiritual.
There we go.
I like these distinctions, though.
Yeah,
So I'm
just-
liking the 6 number. I mean, I like
Yeah.
the mental, physical, spiritual because of the triangle idea, but...
But even then, there's more facets to it, and we want to give you guys the best framework possible to get the best results out of this life that you possibly can.
get reclaimed.
Yep, we're claiming that health, man.
So this week, well, just quick thing. Shout out to Jake Sorensen, our producer in the studio. Thank you, Jake. Appreciate it. So this week, we're going to talk about the physical pillar, like Mark was saying. And Mark and I will probably talk a little bit about our own experiences with this and some of what we've found about diet and nutrition, physical activity, and those types of things.
Lots of fun stuff coming. I mean, I've been a lifelong athlete. David, you have as well. So this is going to be a really fun pillar to talk about.
Yeah. Okay, so lifelong athlete, what does that mean for you? What does that look like for you?
So
Mark?
I started playing T-ball.
T-ball.
Yeah,
You're going
T-ball.
way back.
Oh, yeah. Started with T-ball. My dad pulled me out because, you're not supposed to run people over. You're supposed to slide on the bases, not run them over. So he pulled me into football. Played football for 11 years. Ended my career with football senior year in 2013 with a life-threatening head injury. And then I played indoor soccer, which, funny enough, is number 1 for head injuries in sports.
Soccer?
Yep.
What?
Soccer's
No way.
Soccer's number 1.
That's
it might have
crazy.
changed since 2013, so
That's interesting.
we will definitely figure
I
that
knew
out.
that like rugby had less than football, which is funny because you'd
Mhm.
expect without the helmets that it would be more. But anyway,
Yeah. And then outside of soccer, I used to train to competitively weightlift. I'm back in that now after healing from a car accident I got into last year. And I hike, I snowboard, do a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
But what about you, David? What's your athletic history look like?
I'm extremely uncoordinated. So any sport that includes like a ball or a stick or anything like that,
Gotcha.
like hitting a ball with a stick or catching a ball with a stick or
Yeah.
throwing a ball with a stick or anything or a puck or anything like that is
Yeah.
out of the cards for me. But
All right.
when I was I wrestled when I was in middle school, and then I started training martial arts when I was about 13 at Coruscant, and started training martial arts when I was young, and I ran cross country and I swam. And, as I got older, I stopped doing a lot of that stuff. When I kind of started going to college and stuff, I got out of the habit of doing a lot of those athletics, and my body got old really quickly. You know what I mean? Like it catches
They
up
say
with
if you don't
really
use it, you lose it.
Yeah, and I mean, athletics, just like being a lifelong athlete goes beyond just the technical sports I did. But I always
Absolutely, yeah.
liked just like, putting on a pair of boots and fucking around in the woods or,
Hell yeah.
throwing sticks or, we'd get
Yeah.
hatchets and throw the hatchets and
Oh, God,
go
yeah.
climb a mountain or, whatever.
Yeah.
It was always,
Anything. I mean,
always
Colorado's
moved.
a huge state to do a lot of outdoorsy stuff in. So
yeah.
never a dull weekend.
No, definitely not.
Or shit, a weekday if you don't work on the week or you work on the weekends, not the weekdays. Yeah. So what would you say would be the biggest impact you've had on your physical pillar of health? Like, what would you say are the top 3 important things when it comes to the physical pillar of health?
That's a great question. Top 3, number 1, diet, nutrition. Absolutely.
Absolutely.
What comes in is what, you're literally building your body
Absolutely,
with
yeah.
what you're putting into it.
Mhm.
That's literally the construction, like on a molecular level. You're
Yeah.
constructing your body. So
It's
obviously,
fuel
if
for
you're
our
putting
DNA.
in crap, you're going to be a piece of crap.
Hey,
That might be
you're
a little
not
extreme,
wrong.
but-
You're not wrong.
But that's been my experience, or you're going to feel like crap at least.
Yeah.
Second is actually, this has been a big thing for me in the last year, is not necessarily exercise. It's actually movement. And what I mean by that is
I like it. I like it.
moving my body in more diverse ways and
Mm-hmm.
moving more often. Just moving, because people often get confused. They think like, oh, you should move more. They think, oh, I got to exercise more. I got to go to the gym more, which is a good idea, but that's not the only source of movement.
Absolutely.
I mean, sometimes I'll just like when I'm watching TV, because I still enjoy my TV.
Mm-hmm.
I'll go lie on the floor. I'll do the foam roller and I'll do some stretches, like dynamic
Yep.
stretching. You know what I mean? Like
Oh yeah.
that's moving as opposed to just sitting still on the couch or
Exactly.
just getting up and doing a walk if you're sitting at a desk working for a few hours, getting
Walk
up and
around the
walking.
office.
Yeah,
Do a
exactly. Do a lap.
lap. Yep.
So that's probably been number 2 for me. Has just been increasing my total movement. And then number 3 is probably exercise. Because I still think high intensity exercise is still so important for me.
Yeah.
What about you? What would you say are the top 3 things that have changed, transformed you?
I mean, number one is definitely the same: diet, and nutrition. I
Mhm.
mean, we are a reflection of what we consume. So food is information for our DNA. So your energy production, your energy output is reflected by what you consume. So
Hmm.
nutrient dense, sought after foods, clean, organic, preferably from a local farmer. You guys support your local dudes. But yeah, diet and nutrition at top one. I definitely agree with you on movement. Like movement and exercise, I think are probably the same for me. You got to do something. Whether it's going to the gym, if you have weight bands, you have bars, you have kettlebells, you have dumbbells, do something. Push-ups,
Yeah.
sit-ups, pull-ups, like move.
Mm-hmm.
We have these lives where we're stuck in this rut of just this, hamster wheel. Like, get out of that. Take a break. Like you said, take a lap. Do something. My third one, this is because I'm I'm much more of an intense person than most people are, is get uncomfortable. Get comfortable with being uncomfortable. So like cold plunges, breath work, saunas, like do
You just named
something.
like 3 of my favorite things.
Dude, I know, right? Like 3 of my favorite. It's been a while since I've cold plunged. We still gotta go jump in a river.
Yeah,
together.
we're gonna do that.
Yeah, we gotta do that soon. Not when it's -13 next week.
No, no, absolutely not.
But yeah, I mean, our bodies, we get into these modes where we're so comfortable all the time. We have our, I'm convenient, I'm wearing a hoodie today.
I know, right?
We have our hoodies, we have our layers, we have our shoes, we have all these things that block our connection to this beautiful marble we're living on. That's like
Marble.
literally
Yeah.
full of energy. Like, just connect to it, damn it. And, get uncomfortable. Whether it's a cold shower, extra hot showers they're more relaxing. They're not really, you don't strain yourself with that. So you really need to do a sauna, not a hot shower.
Or like a bath. Like if you get your bath really hot, people
Yeah.
like I
Like an
don't
Epsom
get
salt
people
bath.
who take baths that they could sit in it for an hour. My bath, I get it so hot that I can't sit in it for more than 10 minutes. Like
Yeah,
if
you're, like,
there's enough hot
challenging
water in,
yourself. Yeah.
like I'm
You're
like,
like-
drenched in sweat and
Yup.
I'm like, like, dude.
Oh God. Yeah, I mean those would be my top 3 because like honestly, and I love getting uncomfortable. Like it's like
There's something deeply rewarding about it.
really is. Plus, when you combine breath work with getting uncomfortable, being uncomfortable is not that bad. It's really not. Like, you ever heard of box breathing?
I've heard of it. I can't remember what it is right now though.
So box breathing, I did this the other day at the sauna. It was literally 2 days ago, and I'm up to 17 minutes, and I find audios on YouTube that I can listen to that are almost that amount, so I can have that positive download while I'm putting myself through something. And box breathing, so what it does is it helps your body balance itself. So box breathing is a 4 count in, 4 count hold, 4 count out,
Oh, and then
4
4
count hold. So it's that little. I sometimes do 5 seconds if I take an extra deep breath.
Yeah.
But it's always the same count, and that 17 minutes in that sauna did not feel like 17 minutes. I was like, I can just sit here.
Really?
Yeah. Oh God, yeah. I mean, even with cold, like Wim Hof, love that dude, the Iceman. If you guys have ever heard of that term too, he figured out a way to, by controlling your breathing, you can increase your body's ability to adapt to its external environment.
Yeah.
So he he climb Everest? Went to base camp
No,
one in shorts?
yeah, he went to the base
did he run up-
camp and he climbed to the top. I think of like maybe it was Kilimanjaro, one of
One of
those
the big
top
ones.
5
Yeah.
highest. I'm pretty sure.
In nothing but shorts.
Yeah, and he has the world record for
Yeah.
like they put him in that big vat and they pour the ice up to basically like his
Yup.
jawline.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, there's so many amazing studies on that dude. They're starting to come out on social media too. So like he's on Instagram, he's on YouTube. He actually has his breathing methods on YouTube. So if you
Yeah.
ever want to do them and try them at home, check him out on YouTube. It's
Mhm.
I love it. It's amazing.
dude, I discovered Wim Hof when I was 16, and that's when I started taking cold showers because I
Hell
came
yeah.
across it was my trainer, my martial arts trainer. He told
Mhm.
me about him, and I went home and I watched the YouTube thing, and I started taking cold showers. And at that time, I didn't realize how cold the cold would get. I mean, I didn't realize that like cold showers is not the limit of the cold,
Yeah.
you know, because like cold showers can get cold, but I mean, you're talking 55 degrees at the coldest, or like 50 to 55 at the coldest, not
Yeah,
like
not freezing.
not freezing,
Yeah.
but it was the start. And I think cold exposure is one of the best highs I've ever had.
You are 100. Have you done cold to hot or hot to cold?
I have.
Dude,
It's
that's
actually maybe I haven't. I don't know if
I've
have.
done it once, and it was a fucking trip.
Really?
Like it's a weird feeling. Joe Rogan talks about it, and I'm like, I want to do it so bad. But they don't have freaking cold plunges at gyms, which is dumb.
I know they don't have cold plunges, and it's expensive to buy a sauna. So it's like, what do you?
Trying to work with what we got, and like 24-hour fitness has a regular sauna instead of infrared sauna, which penetrates deeper. So
Yeah.
it's not as. But again, use what you got, make it happen. Start somewhere. So we talked about in the last podcast. Freaking start. Hardest part of reclaiming your health is starting. Don't be afraid to do it. There's a lot of people out here doing it. Not everyone talks about it, but it's one of the reasons why David and I are doing what we're doing.
Yeah,
Because we're
exactly.
starting the conversation. We're starting that hard conversation. But let's jump into diet a little bit.
Yeah, I think diet's a good place to start because I mean it was number one for both of us.
Yeah.
So
how would you describe your diet?
now I'd describe it as animal based. I guess kind of paleo,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, animal based now.
Yeah, kind
I
of a
eat-
hybrid.
I eat pretty closely to what Carnivore MD Paul Saladino's recommendations are
Mhm.
at this point, but I deviate from it in some respects. But yeah, kind of somewhere in between there. Basically, like paleo without the vegetables.
Yeah.
Like that's what I'm eating now.
Without the defense chemicals.
and without the nuts. I mean, definitely no nuts.
Yeah.
But for me, but what about you?
So I'm definitely like hardcore. I wouldn't call myself completely carnivore, but definitely strictly animal based.
Yeah.
Every once in a while, I'll have something with minimal toxins, and usually it's followed by an 18-hour fast just to make sure I get it out of my system. But that's one of the reasons why I have this book, The Carnivore Code. It's like, I think it's, what is it, $14 on Amazon? I can't remember. I used to have it down to the penny, but it's been a while since I got on Amazon. So definitely recommend this book. He's going to come out with another
Oh,
one.
forward by Mark Sisson. That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, Mark Sisson.
Um,
He's the paleo. He was kind of at the forefront of the paleo. Started
Forefront
Primal
of Paleo.
Kitchen.
Yeah.
Sold it now, right? Heinz
Yep.
owns it now.
Heinz owns Primal Kitchen, which makes me very sad. But he's going to come out with a 2.0, and he does have a carnivore cookbook on Amazon. So if you do have any interest in starting carnivore, his podcast is phenomenal, Fundamental Health. Instagram's great, tons of information. Heart and Soil is his organ supplement.
Which you take, right?
Yes, that was another thing I wanted to say too. So with carnivore, animal-based, one of the foundations is organ meats.
Yep. And then that's gonna we're talking Catherine
Yeah.
Shanahan, Deep Nutrition. She's
Which-
organ meats here too. That's
Yep.
seems to be a core foundation
Oh
these
yeah.
days.
It's like nature's multivitamins.
Absolutely.
You know, and Paul Saladino did a phenomenal job when he formulated Heart and Soil. I mean, they're packaged in glass, all from regenerative farms. Like, and it is literally a difference you can feel. I take the beef organs right now. I'm gonna get a whole package, which is specifically geared towards men's health, and the mood and brain is one that I'm very fascinated by. So, and with all my long history of head injuries, I really want to try and see what difference it makes from all the supplementation that I do to make sure I don't have any nutritional gaps.
Yeah.
But
So what have you noticed? Like, okay, so how did you start doing carnivore in the first place?
So ever since I've been alive, my mom raised me to cook. So I've
Mm-hmm.
always do everything home cooked. Older I've gotten, less I go out. So I found carnivore when I was getting really dialed in to this optimal health thing. This really chasing optimal, whether it's mind, body, and spirit, the 6 pillars, the triangle, whatever you want to call it, chasing that optimal. Plus, it had to do with my recovery too. And I noticed with my recovery, I ate 4 things. It was ground beef, rice, hard-boiled eggs, and avocados. You get all the healthy fats, you get some good carbs, you get some nutrient-dense proteins. Didn't realize what I was doing, but my body intuitively just picked up on it. I added vegetables back in after I recovered more from my car accident. I started working again. But I was always dealing with inflammation. Something was pissing my gut off on a daily basis.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, you know what? There's got to be something to this. Found this Carnivore MD guy on Instagram. I'm like, okay, this makes sense. So I listened to a couple of his videos, check his page out, binge his page, find out he has a YouTube channel, binge his YouTube channel.
Absolutely,
And then I
yeah.
found his book, and I'm like, fuck it, I'm buying the book. And now, this was literally over the course of, I think, 2 or 3 weeks. I did all this dive-in research, plus my background in natural health and natural medicine. I was like, fuck it. What can I lose? First 6 days, dude, life-changing results. I mean, I literally visibly looked like I lost 15 pounds.
Just because all the inflammation and the bloat
All
just
the that I didn't even know I had. I'm like, I'm a pretty lean dude.
yeah.
And
Your cheeks probably like
oh yeah, my whole
thin
face,
out
yeah,
and-
everything tightened up around my face, around my body. My muscle mass started building different. My sleep was better. My hormones were better. With head injuries, that comes with lower ability to produce your hormones, your really important functioning ones. So your testosterone, estrogen, pregnenolone, DHEA, progesterone. I know I'm missing a couple, but those are the big ones that we always talk about, that we always hear about. And since then, man, it's been great. I mean, I don't just eat beef, lamb, venison, bison, hard-boiled eggs or raw eggs, just the yolks, not the egg whites. I do a lot of fruit, raw honey, raw dairy. Local raw honey is very important, helps build your immune system. Raw dairy from Wyoming, because Colorado's dumb with the way they have it set up. And yeah.
So was your initial impression of Carnivore MD that you liked him? Like you immediately liked him off the bat?
Oh yeah. I mean, he's, we have a lot of, so he's a double board certified MD, which is very weird for me because most MDs don't look like him.
Mm-hmm.
He's this vibrant, high energy, like
Very tan.
Very tan. Part of it's genetics.
Yeah, I mean,
But he does live in Costa Rica most of the time. So, but he just looked super vibrant. And he had all this great knowledge. So I'm like, okay, so he's a knowledgeable dude. And then, but with this carnivore code, let's see if I can find where it all starts. So he's got ridiculous. I've never seen somebody do this, but in this book, he has. So out of the entire book, these are his references. Both the cameras. This is references. So there's like probably 200 or 300 references, if not more. I'm just really quickly counting that. Just on his one book.
mm-hmm.
So one of the things I love to say is documentation beats conversation. So when you say something like vegetables are bullshit, everything's got defense chemicals. You shouldn't be eating defense chemicals because if you want to reach an optimal, radical lifestyle or radical way of living, don't eat the bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
Like eat what is sought after for a millennia, what is ancestrally consistent, the most sought after foods in the world. Now, do all organs taste phenomenal? Jury's still out on that. It's an acquired taste, for sure. I will say maple syrup makes a huge difference on liver. But, man, a lot of people are like, variety is the spice of life. And I say it all the time, but you can have a pretty kick-ass variety eating just animal foods, like animal-based. Carnivore is much more disciplined. Yeah.
Yeah, but I didn't like Paul Saladino at first. I
Yeah.
hated him. I was like, this dude's a dick.
He has a
I
very blunt,
well,
blunt
yeah,
way of saying
exactly.
stuff
I
too.
was like, but that was when I was still on the vegetable train. You
It
know
was
what I
conditioning.
mean? Yeah. So then I was
Yeah.
like, well, I need vegetables. Like, and I gotta be honest, I miss salad. Like, I love salad, but the thing is, I don't love how salad
I miss the
goes
dressing.
straight through me. You know what I mean?
It's the dressing for me.
Yeah, but it's like he came on a little strong for me, but
Mhm.
then eventually, I think it took meeting you to actually finally be like, okay, fine, I'll try this stupid thing out,
Yeah.
and
Dial in more discipline with it.
mhm.
Yeah. I mean, it's not like, and that's the thing too. There's a lot of our food is filled with ultra refined, ultra processed crap that mimics um, different reactions in our body. Like refined sugar can mimic your need for sodium. Our
Mhm.
body's innate need for sodium. You get seed oils, and they activate the CB1 receptor in the body, and it hijacks your satiety mechanism. So if you've got, and I encourage everybody to do this, check the labels of everything you buy and see how common seed oils are.
Everywhere.
They're everywhere.
And
They're
that's
in
funny
everything.
because Paul Saladino and this book I have here by
Mhm.
Cate Shanahan, both of these books talk about seed oils.
Yeah.
And I would say that's the place to start.
Yeah.
If you don't want to like take on a whole animal based diet, that's one thing. Like I was
Start with
slow in
eliminating.
moving. Eliminate seed oils, and you'll see how many foods go immediately.
Yeah.
I mean, bye bye McDonald's, bye bye Burger King, obviously. But then you're also looking at like
98
a lot of your
yeah.
chips, almost all
Pretty much
chips.
all chips.
Yeah,
I
I
think it's
mean,
like what 1%. I think it's Sprouts has some really good ones. Like
yeah, like
they
some
got avocado
avocado
oil,
oils,
coconut oil, all organics. You're not worrying
Mhm.
about pesticides, herbicides.
But yeah, seed oils would be a good place to start
Yeah.
because,
Or even switching organic.
yeah,
Organic versus like organic non-GMO, which organic means non-GMO. Non-GMO doesn't mean organic, but you know, well, let me clarify that for everybody. So organic guarantees that it's not genetically modified, it's not sprayed with herbicides or pesticides.
up to 95%, right?
95% organic is the current standard. It used to be 100%, and it's slowly being lowered over time.
Mhm.
They're trying to get it down, I think,
To
90.
Yeah.
And then non-GMO just guarantees that it's not genetically modified, but it doesn't guarantee that it's not sprayed with herbicides or pesticides, which some studies are starting to show that having all that crap sprayed on them, it actually gets into the food.
Yeah.
So you're not genetically modifying it, you're just chemically modifying it. And then glyphosate's a whole other thing.
The non-GMO is better than nothing
Yeah.
because at
Depending
least
on what
with
you
the
have access to, too.
at least the non-GMO with that, I'm pretty sure from my understanding of it,
Mhm.
probably correct me if I'm wrong, with the non-GMO,
Mhm.
they are a lot of times part of the reason why they're genetically modifying the foods is
Mhm.
so that they are resistant to herbicides and pesticides like glyphosate. So like the corn.
Mhm.
Like the corn gets genetically modified. There's a specific strain of
Yeah.
corn, the Monsanto corn, right?
Mhm.
That has a patent,
Yep.
and it's genetically modified so that you can spray glyphosate on it without it dying.
yeah.
So that's part of the genetic modification is
Yeah.
to have resistance towards these herbicides and pesticides. Is
Yep.
my understanding of it.
No,
So
absolutely.
then I think, from my understanding, you're at least maybe getting less, or there's a lower probability of getting them.
Yeah. It's
If
lower, but not. I mean, still, like if we look at like how I said earlier, food is information for our DNA.
Mhm.
If it's genetically modified, well, it's foreign.
Yeah.
Our body gets confused, and especially if you throw a bunch of byproducts or a bunch of other crap in it, you end up with more waste products as it gets processed through the body, as opposed to being in its most bioavailable form. Body knows what to do with it. Eat it, it gets burnt. You get your byproducts that are waste anyway that we go through, and you're golden.
So then, there's so many places. So
Mhm.
if a listener right now, where do they start? Where do they start? I guess that's where we should try to. That's the question we're kind of begging right now. It's
Yeah.
like, you know,
It's the hardest question. How do I
if
start?
I mean, where you start we were talking about this last episode.
Mhm.
I'm going to bring it up again. Where you start is diet. I mean,
Yeah.
we brought it up. Is
Starts there.
it doesn't? They say you can't outlift a bad diet, right? Or you
Correct.
I think that's an
Yeah.
expression in like bodybuilding, weightlifting.
Yep. I mean, outlift, outrun, outswim,
Yeah.
outjump. I mean,
So, but I mean, where do you start? Because there's so many different diets out there.
Mhm.
And I mean, you and me have been through years and years of trial and error
Oh yeah.
trying to find our way to this, and we just happen to find our way to the same thing, which is not coincidence.
Yeah.
There's a very traceable
Yeah.
ancestrally consistent pattern to the way
100%.
that we both found our way to this diet as
Yeah,
being ideal,
absolutely.
and many other people have. It's not because
Yeah.
of a fad.
Yeah.
So what are your thoughts on that?
So starting with the last thing you said, it's not a fad. So like, there's Carnivore MD and then there's Liver King. So we're talking about two polar opposites of a similar mission.
Mm-hmm.
Liver King is more of the bro of the carnivore movement, and Paul Saladino, which is why I follow Paul Saladino, is he's the documentation beats conversation. Here's the data. I'm living proof of it. This is what I do. This is what I swear by. I would die for this. I believe in this. And, sifting out the fakes versus the real ones is the hardest part because there's so many people. Like, you have all these Hollywood celebrities that are promoting vegan and all these other weird ways of eating. I mean, I even heard something come about eating bugs, some bullshit like that. Like,
which if you eat bugs, whatever. I mean, you can eat.
choice,
Monkeys have been eating bugs for. I mean, bugs are fine to eat, but trying to
they won't
replace
kill
meat
you,
with.
but like, there's so many other nutrient dense things out there.
Yeah.
Like, don't. And
Well,
we
this
have
is
all
what
these
Carnivore
people.
MD talks
Yeah.
about.
Mhm.
He talks about what are the most sought after foods.
Yes.
This is his quote, and I mentioned earlier that I used to think he was a dick.
Yeah.
And I don't think that anymore. It just took me a while to grow warm to him. I love Carnivore MD.
Well, a lot of it too is understanding where he came from and why he said what he said and how, why it was so important with the way he said. Because like I sent somebody a video of him, and they're like, "He's an asshole," because he says plants are bullshit, vegetables are bullshit. I'm like, okay, but did you take that information, do anything with it? No, he's an asshole. I'm like, that's the problem. You didn't go anywhere with it. You say, okay. So if he says vegetables are bullshit because of defense chemicals, well, what are these defense chemicals? He gives a couple examples in a lot of his videos. Oxalates, phthalates, lectins are, I think, the three that he talks a lot about.
Yeah, because those are the ones that are in beans, nuts, kale, cruciferous vegetables.
Especially oxalates are in there too. And, so like researching defense chemicals. What are they? What are they in?
Mm-hmm.
We're always taught about vegetables. I mean, some fruits have them too, but they're in certain parts of the fruit, the seeds, the skin, stuff like that. So, do your homework. If someone says vegan is the optimal diet, look at the people that are pushing vegan. Do they look like the heroes of old? Do they look like they're healthy? Do they look like they're thriving?
Heroes of old.
Do they look like they are optimal?
Yeah.
Or do they look like their faces are sunken in, they're lacking color, they're dealing with bloating, gas, nausea, all these nasty things that come with being
And this
vegan.
is the thing, is we're not talking about those few examples that stand out. There probably are some vegans out there that are in really good shape or look healthy.
Yeah.
But we're talking about the pattern, the trend. Look at the trend.
The
consistency.
Yeah, the consistency across the board.
Yeah.
Because just like with carnivore, you can take a polar example and be like, this dude's nuts. And you can kind of start, moving back towards the middle where you get into from carnivore to animal-based, or the lion diet, I guess would be more intense than carnivore.
What is that?
So lion diet is muscle meat, water, and salt. The only things you eat.
Yeah, but that doesn't make sense because the lion would eat the organs, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
So why would they?
And that's what, see, but even with the lion diet. So if you look at
isn't that what
lions-
dogs go for first? I don't know about lions, but dogs go for the stomach.
Any sort of carnivore.
Yeah.
It's stomach, liver, heart. It's all those essential nutrient producing or enzyme, these
Dude,
are amazing powerhouses.
My puppy, I remember when I got her, I have a Great Pyrenees. She's about a year old now, but when she was like tiny, she was this big. When I first got her, I remember the first time I got her grass-fed, grass-finished, raw liver, and I gave her a bowl of it, probably like a half a pound.
Yeah.
And she ate that stuff up, and she was so excited. She started sprinting around the apartment crying because she wanted more of it so bad because she was obsessed. But this brings us back to that idea of okay, so Paul Saladino talks about what are the most sought after foods.
Yes.
So we're putting ourselves in the perspective of, okay, you have it on the table. You got this table right here, and you have these foods. Here's a pile of kale, here's a big juicy ribeye, here's some like liver that just got cooked, and then here's some like fruit covered in honey, and here's like a pile of beans.
And
It's
then
like,
you got raw dairy, and then
yeah.
you got too much.
So it's like, what is
too
the
many things.
order of operations in which you're
Yeah.
going to pick these things?
Exactly.
Most humans should go straight for the steak.
Most do.
I
And
mean,
they feel guilty about it because they're demonized.
but there's a reason why. It's
Exactly.
biological. It's
we will literally. I'm going to find the study because I was reading about it the other day.
Mhm.
They did a neurological study against vegans, and they said omnivores because they have to. They won't study the opposite. And the data showed that regardless of the food you choose to eat, regardless of what your choice is, we have an innate biological desire, need for animal protein.
Mhm.
There's all sorts of studies about vegans and vegetarians and people that just don't want to eat meat, which everyone has their own reasons, and we can talk about that in a second. But most vegans, I think it's either between 60 and 80%. I think it's more between 70 and 80%. I always jumble up that number. Admit to cheating on veganism because the steak just looked too good. Or the scallops just looked, or the crab, or whatever it is. They consume animal protein. There's a lot of, I'll post the podcast podcast down in the comments that Paul Saladino did with Jack Venus, I think his name was. It'll be in the comments and we'll drop the link to it. He was one of like the big name vegans
Mhm.
for a long time and then switched over for health reasons. And it was a very trial and error process. It was like a 2-hour podcast. So tons of information. Definitely highly recommend checking it out. I sent it to a lot of people that have this whole argument about animal rights, stupid shit. But because like I'm not denying that factory farms, which is where grain finished beef, it's grass finished versus grain finished, that's a whole other conversation. They are horrible.
Mhm.
As somebody who cut meat, looking at grass finished meat versus grain finished meat, it's different.
Mm.
The lifestyle, what those animals go through is horrible. Factory farms are shit.
Yeah. But it's
But-
funny because you and me aren't buying that. I mean, we're
Exactly.
buying grass-fed, so
Grass-fed,
who knows
grass-finished,
exactly what they're
regeneratively
doing?
sourced if we can find
If we
it.
can, like force of
Usually it
nature.
is.
Yeah, I mean,
Forces of nature, baller, white oak pastures, baller.
exactly. So it's like I posted a video
Mhm.
about something about vegetarianism, and somebody went off about the factory farming, and this is what,
Mhm.
Mark and I don't eat eggs I can't speak for everybody. Mark and I don't eat eggs where the chickens are inside.
Yeah,
Or unless they might have access to like a coop, but they
for
are
weather purposes.
outside
Yeah,
chickens.
Yeah.
I don't eat those eggs anymore. I eat eggs of chickens that are pasture raised.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? So
There's
it's
a
like
taste difference too.
so yeah, there's a taste difference, there's a
Mhm.
nutrient density difference,
Yup.
and then there's also where you're also respecting the animals more because I don't
100%.
so then it's like there's benefits for you and for the animals. So
Yeah.
yes, I understand where people are coming from when when they want to stop eating meat because
Yes.
of the animals.
Animals.
But also if there's some sort of like you can you can have respect for the animal and eat it. And I think people I mean
Well, I mean, so like let's look at the impact on the environment.
mhm.
So I got to find this study again. The same third-party person studied white oak pastures in Georgia, so it's a 6th-generation regenerative farm.
Mhm.
They studied a factory farm. I don't think they identified it, and they studied the plant that creates the Beyond Meat.
Mm.
And the Beyond Meat. So we'll start with factory farm. We'll go from top to bottom. Factory farm, horrible for the environment. The amount of carbon they put off, the emissions they put off, horrible. Hands down, no one can argue that. Like, I'm sure we can all agree, no one can argue that factory farms are a good thing. Like, they're bad.
Yeah.
Plant-based. Still emitted carbon. Not as much as the factory farm, but still emitted it. White oak pastures was carbon negative.
Mm.
They sequestered carbon from the atmosphere. And I mean, if you go to the farm, like I've seen pictures online, I got to find time to go out there. The soil looks like dark coffee grounds. Like it's like black.
Mm.
And you go to some freaking bullshit factory farm, and this shit's like broken and
It looks like a
dry.
desert,
It
all cracked.
Yeah, the soil's just dead.
Yeah.
So, we talk about the whole animal rights, the whole animal movement. Ancestrally, the way our ancestors would hunt is it was a prayer, it was a ritual, it was
Mhm.
honoring the animal they killed for the life force that it was giving us. Goes for one thing to live, something else must die. Same thing with fruits and vegetables.
And it's fascinating because when we die, what do? We decompose into the earth and a mushroom grows out of us or something like that. You know what I mean? So it's like,
exactly.
and then that mushroom's like honoring us by
Mhm.
utilizing our life force
Yeah,
or
exactly.
I guess maybe not our life force because that
Well,
gets
it
into a
is.
whole, but
Energy
yeah,
and
exactly.
that's a
But
whole nother.
there's,
Yeah,
at least our flesh and bones
exactly.
utilizing that. It's not going to
Yeah,
waste. There's no,
100%. And that's one of the important thing too. So like, there's a lot of people out there that would eat steak.
mm-hmm.
I mean, how many of you all listening would eat steak? I mean, hands. I don't even have to
Definitely.
like. How many of you would eat steak like without any other information? My hand's going up.
Mm-hmm.
So, but how many of you eat nose to tail? How many of you use the bones for consuming the bone marrow or bone broth? How many of you eat the liver? How many of you eat all the organs? How many of you eat or use the hide for some sort of clothing or some sort of utility? The bones you can't get anything out of, do you use it for any sort of thing around your house? Not a lot of us do. It's very rare. So the importance of honoring the animal is eating nose to tail. So you consume organs when you can find them, when you can source them from a grass-finished regenerative source. You consume all the cuts of meat. You don't, get all, I want this ribeye porterhouse. Shut up. As a meat cutter, there are definite ways of getting around that. Like the top sirloin filet, it's the poor man's filet mignon. The chuck eye steak, it's the poor man's ribeye.
Oh, I love chuck roast.
Oh my God.
Anyway.
I want to make a chuck roast today. Throw in a crock pot. I got bone broth, literally make like stewing at home in the crock pot. From bones I already consumed. And then I threw some bone marrow bones in there just to get all that extra nutrients. So like don't waste. If you got fat on your stuff, don't trim the damn fat off. I'm one of those weirdos at the table. If people are cutting fat off their steaks, I'm like, give me the fat.
Dude,
My
right? I
connective
don't
tissue.
get that.
Like, give me that.
I know people cut off the parts of the meat, and this is
Yeah.
something that, the connective tissue, like what you were saying, this is what
Yeah. Deep nutrition,
Dr.
carnivore code.
Yeah, Dr. Shanahan
Yeah.
talks about how we don't eat meat on the bone anymore. We cut off all the connective tissue. We cut off the bones. We cut the meat so that the meat, the muscle itself is
Yeah.
isolated.
Yeah.
But there is in the connective tissue, there's collagen, there's glutamine, there's
yeah.
glycine, there's like all of these essential amino acids that
the
help with the
cholesterol
gut.
even.
The cholesterol, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like it helps with the gut, helps with the joints.
Brain.
Yeah, the whole shebang.
We can go on and on.
I know this
about
is like we're kind of all
this is part one of
like
probably I don't know
three
a
parts,
dozen.
a dozen part series.
The physical pillar is something that is like you can never end with it because diet, nutrition, it never ends.
So if somebody's listening right now, where do you think they start? Where is the best place to start with diet and nutrition?
So start removing seed oils, and then go organic. It is more expensive. It does suck. I get that. But the more refined, processed, bullshit foods you pull out of your diet, there's a lot more for your wallet. There's a lot more room in there. Because all these foods that you consume, like let's say Cheez-Its, right? I used to love Cheez-Its. Seed oils, processed stuff. Or chips, another great one. If you remove chips out of your diet, and let's say you make beef jerky at home, you buy ground beef, a jerky gun, a dehydrator, costs more up front. Once you have it, like I've had one for years, I make jerky at home. And you immediately flip that. And then you take all that processed carb, all those carbs, and you switch to protein. Because in order to lose weight, it is scientifically proven, higher protein, lower carb. Everyone's like, I gotta have my chips, gotta have my... Shut up. No, you don't. You're being ridiculous. Discipline yourself. Come on. It's not that bad. But start with organic and removing seed oils. Work from there, because those two are hard. They're not easy.
That's true.
You're reading labels, and then you're looking at... So, like, when you read a label, the hierarchy that they go in is the amount of stuff like if the amount of that in that product. So like if you
So they
get
have to list. Yeah, they list
yeah,
the
it
ingredients.
goes in a hierarchy. They don't tell you exactly what it
That's
is.
so interesting. It's funny
Yeah.
because people don't teach you this stuff.
My
Like,
naturopath teaches she has a little seminar on it.
yeah, it's good. Like, yeah,
Yeah.
the largest volume
hmm
comes for. Is it by volume or by weight? I think it's by weight
Yeah, I think it depends on the product we're talking about,
or
but yeah,
mass. But yeah, like,
yeah, it's definitely a hierarchy. Like if you pull potato chips, well, potatoes are the first ingredient because it's a potato chip. You know, like they're not gonna throw. Oh, we got herbicides, pesticides that are more than potatoes. Like, how the hell are you gonna form a chip if you don't have a potato? You know, so like use a super simple example, but it doesn't have to be. This doesn't have to be complicated. A lot of people get paralysis by analysis. They over emotionalize this decision. Start small. Week 1, week 2, week 3. If your grocery store doesn't have organic, well, maybe driving 25 minutes to is where you get your organic stuff. Okay, so that takes more coordination, more planning, more time. Most places have organic. The best options are at your Sprouts, Natural Grocers.
so what does
King
somebody
Soopers is
do if
stepping
they're
up.
on a budget then? If they're like, and I'm talking
Yeah.
tight budget. I'm not
So
talking
like
like,
they're like counting pennies.
yeah. So what does someone do then? Because
So
this is something
mhm,
we need to account for. Is like,
absolutely
I mean, it's not like you and me are rolling in dough, but there are people who have it a lot harder
that
than
are
us.
less
Yeah,
fortunate.
have a lot
Absolutely.
like have a lot more struggles. Maybe have
Yeah.
more financial obligations, kids,
100%.
whatever else. So
Yeah.
what do they do in this situation?
So a lot of what they do, so in this situation, seed oil is still priority 1.
Mm.
If you're consuming fruits and vegetables, do organic. If you can't do them, opt for frozen. They have amazing frozen options, whether it's Costco, Walmart, that are organic, and I mean, these like they got like Costco got like 4-pound bags, 5-pound bags. You know, try shopping bulk. You know, Costco's $40 a year for the basic membership. $40 a year, and I'm pretty sure if I remember correctly, food stamps work at Costco. So if you're in that position where you're using food stamps, go to Costco, buy bulk. You know, they don't have grass finished beef, but they have beef. Like they sell fat tubes of ground beef
I was gonna say that's
and
what
fat
Carnivore
packs.
MD
Yeah.
grabbed when he was doing one of his. He
Yeah.
does this video where he's like, "Here's
Mhm.
what to do with carnivore on a budget or animal based
Yes.
on a budget," and he goes to
$10 a day, I
Walmart.
think it broke down to.
Yeah, I think so. And he bought
Yeah.
the giant thing of ground beef. And I'd say that
Mhm.
eating the cheapest ground beef you can find is better than eating any seed oils. That would be my argument.
No, no,
Because at
I'm
least
totally
the
with you.
animal is filtering out the seed, like,
Well, they're trying, but like if you go nose to tail, so you honor the animal, then their organs have the byproducts of the crap.
yeah.
But like there was I can't remember what it is. I'll mention it on another podcast. But there's a store I went to in Montana. It's some of you guys might know this off the top of your heads. It's a employee owned place to shop. It's phenomenal. It's like Walmart and Costco had a baby, but like you didn't have bullshit prices. They're phenomenal, and it does take some label reading, but you can find there's grass finished stuff there, wild caught seafood. You know, check the ocean it comes from. You know, organic fruits, check where they come from. Like mangoes out in Colorado, they taste horrible now. They tasted great in the summer, but now they taste like crap. You know, but start small, buy in bulk. It hurts more up front, but then, 'cause, you know, I'm the second oldest of 10 kids. Grew up in a big family. And I grew up on the East Coast. So, like, BJ's Wholesale Club was our go to. So, we bought everything in bulk. You know, ground beef, we didn't buy the packs they had out there. We knocked on the window or, you know, asked the butcher or the meat cutter, can we have a whole tube? You know, 10 pounds of beef. 12 kids. You go through one of those in a day if everyone's eating a pound, you know? But there's ways to do it. It's just we overcomplicate it by what we're looking at instead of searching for, you know, alternatives. So, you know, that I would start there. You know, get rid of the seed oils, get rid of the processed foods. You know, a lot of people say, you know, like you're a reflection of what you consume. You won't out earn. I've learned this. You won't out earn your diet. You won't. And even if you do, it's just a matter of time. Because you can be making $50,000 a year and eating the most nutrient dense foods that you can find, and you're gonna feel like $1 million. You can be making $100 million a year and eating bullshit all the time because you're depressed and you're sad and you're miserable because all you did was earn money. And that $100 million ain't going to feel like that. You can do whatever you want, buy whatever you want. But if you're empty inside, if you don't feel vibrant, you don't feel vital, the hell is that money worth to you?
Yeah, and obviously diet's not the only thing with addressing that, but
Yeah, absolutely.
it's for us, for you and I personally, it has been a big part of our process. Is,
100%.
you know, so like, I mean, we talked about the 6 pillars of health last episode, and we mentioned them at the beginning of this episode,
Yeah.
and we'll be going into more of them. And obviously, you know, if you make $100 million a year, you got financial covered,
yeah.
it seems, but it's like, you know,
Everything else.
whether you make 50,000 or $100 million a year, if you don't have those other pillars in line, that's, or if you do,
Yeah.
that's going to determine your
Yeah.
happiness. It's
Exactly. It's all it's all relative. It's all subjective. End of the day, you know, we're at mercy of our decisions. You know, our discipline determines our life. You know, are you disciplined enough to dial in your diet and nutrition? Are you disciplined enough to get some movement in every day? Are you disciplined enough to be uncomfortable? It's uncomfortable for a reason. But one thing with getting uncomfortable is it becomes the new comfortable. So then when you're put in a situation like cold exposure does increase the body's ability to handle stress because you're used to being uncomfortable. So whether it's external stimuli or mental stimuli, you become more resilient. You just do. You know, you're a reflection of what you consume. So what are you watching? What are you listening to? What are you reading? You know, who are you hanging around? Family, friends, significant other. What's your environment look like? Control your environment. You know, they say you'll never out earn the 5 closest people by, I think it's more than 10%. I'll find that statistic and we'll drop it down in the comments or we'll reference it in the next podcast, but in the next episode. So, you know, there's a lot of external factors. Like you've got to work on all 6 pillars or the triad at the same time. You can't just focus on one because if you build one pillar, you start tipping the damn house. It's going to get unbalanced. So, but yeah, I mean, and just like us, you know, I've said before, getting started is the first step in reaching an optimal level of health and reclaiming your health. Reclaiming who you are is getting started by the first step. So, real quick, words. We can edit that out.
real quick.
Real quick, just to wrap things up. Physical pillar. Top 3 things. Let's do top 4 because ours were. I had an additional one. Diet, nutrition, movement, exercise, and getting uncomfortable are the 4 things you should start with. And when it comes to getting started with your diet, start with eliminating seed oils, eating organic, and getting the processed stuff out. You know, and this has to be a you decision. This can't be something that you're running around, you know, seeking validation for. Fact check what we're saying. Look at the consequences of food dyes. Look at the consequences of processed foods. Look at the consequences of seed oils. There's more studies coming out about them. You know, so
Yeah, and I think the last thing I'll say on this is, you said fact check, and the thing that I learned, this is my experience with the Paul Saladino thing, bringing this full circle, is that I was doubting before I was willing to try it.
Yeah.
So that was the thing, is it's like fact checked against your own body. You don't. You can do all the research
Try
you
it
want, but
before you
try
try
it.
it.
Yeah, exactly. Because that's what I did with Carnivore MD for a while, and then I finally was willing to try it, and now I have a totally different perception of him because I realized that some of what he was saying, transformed my life. So it was just
absolutely. And I mean, like by fact checking. So like, one of the beautiful things I do, and David, you do this as well. You got to look at both sides. You can't look at this community and say, "Oh, this is the truth," without understanding the opposing argument. So it's very important to look at both sides, find the commonalities, sift out the bullshit, and look at where these studies are coming from. Are they being paid for by Big Pharma? Or are they independent, being, you know, promoted by a mass group of people that want this information? Look at where all this stuff comes from. And right there, you'll find a lot of the answers you're looking for. But as always, appreciate you guys for tuning in and listening. It's amazing being able to have this opportunity to do this. David, you're the man.
You the man, Mark.
I look forward to more episodes, maybe even bringing some of you guys on one day as you guys go through your transformation journey. And I mean, shit, I said it last time. I'll say it again. Love you guys. I wish you the best of luck. We are here to support you in any way we can. We will focus episodes on y'all's questions. So give us questions, give us input, tell us your stories. We want to hear from
Absolutely.
you guys.
That's the light of our lives.
Yeah, that's why we do this. It isn't because we want to sit here and talk about all the things we know. We want to share our experiences to build you guys into the best version of yourselves as humanly possible. Until next time, love you guys.